Hi, I'm Anna.
Hi, Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching Frieren, Season 1, Episode 6. Last episode, we met an individual named Mr. Stark. Another apprentice. And he's seemingly, hopefully, going to join our party and help us fight a solar dragon.
And no longer be a coward, because that would be good for his own character development and helpful to us, because then we will get a grimoire that we want.
He's someone who can fight for another.
Yes.
I'm excited to see what happens this episode.
Me too.
I'm really liking the show so far.
Agreed.
Ready?
Yes.
Sweet. From his practice swings.
I love his hair just kind of moving. I wonder if they'll be finding a priest at some point.
Good question. Do you think that this song is written for this anime? It's vague enough that I'm like...
It didn't need to be.
Begin to run...
It was written for it.
Yeah. It's just so good.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that ring's gonna come back up. The hero of the village. It's a good start.
Mm-hmm.
I love the score.
He takes the place of Himmel and Aizen in the party. There's pressure and weight to that. Said with a smile.
Fight with my master.
Not against monsters. Did he get that scar and that's why he ran away?
I wonder what it was.
Some reason.
I love that they're all like grandfathered in. Oh, so cool. All I needed was resolve. Oh.
She's no longer there. It's like he was still thinking of her words.
Remember when Frieren asked Fern if she remembered everything she taught her?
Mm-hmm. And Frieren thought it would be good for Fern to be the one to go talk to him. And she says she doesn't know how people feel. He didn't run. But he's there.
Three years.
To him, that's a long time.
I love how small they are in comparison.
Oh. And then Aizen's fist had been trembling.
Oh. Whoa! Oh, no it isn't. It's my fear that brought me this far. Oh my god! Oh!
Resolve. Ooh!
There can only be one red guy in this town. Come on. Whoa!
No wonder it stopped attacking. Can it sense it? Can it sense Stark's like...
Oh, what a shot! This is great! I was afraid of him. What a shot! Oh my god, the shadow! Woo!
His body's sure moving.
Oh!
Where's the countdown for the 30 seconds? Does he even need it? Can he do this on his own?
Oh. Is it already dead?
It's already dead. She said 30 seconds because she thought that was what he needed.
Wow.
What a better way for him to, like...
It melting away looked like his hair.
Oh, it did.
He's a lucky man.
No more than 3 items.
What? A shaved ice spell?
That's so good. Yes. Can we really be having fun on a journey like that?
Oh my god.
They all changed from this 10-year journey. Shoot.
No! That is ridiculous. It's out there. I'm sure of it.
So like Fern.
God,
yeah!
I love it.
I feel like watching a ridiculous journey. What if we say please?
What if you like name drop yourself?
Since he's been there, it hasn't happened, but now he's gonna be... Okay, now that he's gone, it's our chance. Ridiculous journey. We did hear that Fern gives scary looks.
2 years.
Fern doesn't want this journey to be 10 years.
I wonder how the 10 years is broken up before, you know? Of waiting. Maybe both. Maybe they just shrunk it too.
And you got taller.
I like the detail of her like putting her hands under her dress to sit.
She's been traveling with Frieren too long.
Is this a democracy in a party?
Meddling together.
Wow. Yeah.
Right, that makes sense.
That's so fucking cool.
Trading information?
Try to find a smuggler?
That has to exist. An underground passage?
He is not aware of his own strength. No, Frien's having fun. Showing his scar.
This is from a dragon.
No.
He had his arm around him the whole time. Nothing was more important to him. He wants to do this before Aizen dies. I don't think it's not having a lot of time because of him.
And bring back stories to tell him. Oh.
So sweet. Gosh, that makes me so, like, happy sad.
It just makes me want it to happen more. It makes What did Frieren do?
He was called away. Maybe it was to ask her to help fight for them. Oh. I wonder if they're gonna try to hire her. Asking for your help.
But Frieren's just such like a figure, you know?
Remembers her.
Vern's like, what?
Yep, that's why she's here. To help them.
I love her so much.
Oh, what a nice farewell.
Oh my god.
You're passing through the checkpoint.
You honor us. I love him. I love Stark.
And Fern's on that side and Stark's on that side of her? Yeah.
Do you think we're gonna find a fourth at any point?
I wonder. But that's why I said that Stark's kind of like Aizen and Himmel in one in terms of what he does for the party. He's
not really,
but he's also the frontliner, and he's called a hero. Himmel was the
Aizen
hero.
was a frontliner.
Yeah, but Himmel was the hero, and
yeah.
we're giving Stark the title of hero.
I think but Himmel's like DPS, you know, and like Stark is like a tank.
Right.
Yeah. So okay, that was Frieren, season 1, episode 6. What a great episode.
What a great show so far.
Love Stark.
I do too.
I am kind of surprised I like him.
I like what he's doing for Fern's character too.
Everything about his design I love, like I've complimented before, but it's something that I typically would be like put off by, to be honest, like subjectively. But I adore everything about him. I love it. I agree that I love what he's bringing to the table with the conversation of with Fern, because it's like he's bringing something to the table there, but we're also getting something out of like what like Fern's been around Frieren a long time.
And if we think about this whole journey is for Frieren to connect with past friends while also making like connections herself, we need to also remind ourselves that like we get Ison almost apologizing to Fern about how long this journey is going to take, and we don't want Fern to live with any regrets. And so the idea that Fern also will be able to have a ridiculous and fun journey while also getting to connect with different people other than Frieren.
Yeah.
Satisfying.
We were given the information that the scar on Stark's forehead was not by a monster. It was by his master.
Yes, it was not from a dragon or any monster.
And it was given out of fear, which I think speaks for itself.
Which is so cool because one of the lines we got right after a scar from Master that I had written down, I literally wrote down two things like in order, and they weren't right after the other, but it was scar from Master. Being afraid isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
And that fact that Ison punched him because he was afraid of him, but that's because it was he was so strong. And it was like his body reflexes moved on their own. And the whole reason why the dragon hasn't attacked the village this whole time.
I adore that. But before getting into the dragon, I really, really enjoy that Fern brought something to the table for Stark's growth. Like, the idea of all I needed was resolve, and that stuck with him. And that's what pushed him forward into even attempting anything in this fight.
And then it was her that was the perfect person to be speaking to him there. Because Frieren is on... He ran away from his master. He left his master. Frieren is on the same kind of level in terms of how you would receive their critiques or their advice or their wisdom as his master.
Yeah.
Because Frieren was a traveling companion of his master. She's been alive for a very long time. And she has experienced so much, and she's seen as such a grand figure. Even in, I mean, come on. To Stark, Frieren is like a fairy tale hero because he's been hearing all these stories all these years since he's been growing up. So to hear any of this coming from her, it would have been like, well, of course you can say that because you're just like my master. You're so incredibly strong. Like, there's no flaws when you're thinking of your fairy tale folk heroes. There's no flaws there. They've always been strong. They've always been great. And then at the end of the episode, the fact that he's like, wait, when did it start that back became smaller and this treat in front of me became smaller?
Yeah. I loved, because you brought it up, Stark's like acknowledgement of growth in the world, but more importantly to me was Ison's like how he carried himself around Stark. Like how the idea of him never talking about himself or anything like that, but when it came to this journey, out of his entire life, this 10-year journey was the best thing by far of it.
I wonder if he never talked about himself, then I wonder if Stark ever knew that he was taken as an apprentice because he was just like Ison, in Ison's opinion.
I think
they
that
had a similar history.
Probably not, and I could see that. I could see him learning about it through this journey. You know, I could see memories being brought up and Stark asking Frieren about his master and like what he did in this instance.
Maybe this is his opportunity not only to have his own journey that he can tell stories about, but also learn about the master that he has been following all that time that raised him. Like learning about him in the same way that other characters are learning more about people that they cared about. Like Fern is going to be learning more about Heiter from this journey, as Frieren's going to be learning more about Himmel.
One of my favorite bits that in fiction that I've gotten a few times, even at least on the channel, is the idea of acknowledging fear as something that isn't bad. But what makes this special and different to me is how it directly ties in to the connection between Ison and Stark. Like, fear is something that is something that is the reason that Eisen reached out to Stark and mentored him, because they both shared that fear experience. So it means something more when Eisen's saying something like, it's my fear that brought me this far. Like, that's something that one day Stark can and will say. And I absolutely adore that.
I like that Frieren basically gave him that 30. Honestly, I feel like he defeated that dragon a lot quicker than the 30 seconds that she was going to give him. Something like that. But the fact that she said that probably full well knowing that if he was able to find his resolve and was able to fight the dragon, that he wouldn't need any help.
Yeah.
If he was actually able to do it, then he wouldn't need any help. And that's why she promises, yes, if you die, I will kill the dragon. But she never once really said, I'm going to kill the dragon, before the promising that, yeah, if you're dead, then I will.
And what it shows there is that I think that Stark was so in his own world and character that he wasn't thinking of it with any perspective. Because my immediate thought when Frieren responds with, oh yeah, I promise I'll do it, no doubt. And I'm like, that's a weird promise to make if you need 30 seconds of time to power up a blast. Like, if Stark's dead, how are you going to get a distraction that much? Like, if you prodded that line of thinking enough, it'd be like, you'd uncover and get to Stark's, like, realization of, oh, Frieren doesn't even need me, potentially, to do this. But there's another motive of giving that 30 seconds to me. I wanted to talk about the actual fight.
Okay.
So, we have gotten bits of action, obviously, since starting the series.
Mainly the fight with Gaul.
Yeah, and because of that, we've seen more ranged fights and animation within spells and things like that. I didn't really know what to expect in terms of how fights were going to play out in this series when it came to more,
it's not magic.
Exactly. More close-up fighting and maneuvering. I am mind blown. It's so unique and great, and it's better than I could have hoped for. And it's special to me with how they managed to do it. Like, I love the idea of seeing this glowing within the dragon's belly before fire even comes out of his mouth.
See, I liked the movement of the dragon, like how it moved before it lit up, like it was about to...
It was very cat hairball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a cat hairball. That's exact the movement of, like, yes.
But the movement of Stark is what really, like, blew me away. By far, highlight of the episode is the fight because of the movement of Stark. I loved how dynamic that the choreography is, but
up with his hand
the
down,
environment is
pushing off of a rock.
It's, what did I write down? It was like, it was a fight over a massive range, but the way that they conveyed and showed space being traversed was phenomenal.
It was still very hands-on.
Yeah, it was still very hands-on. I love the way that he runs as well, but it's like how we follow him amongst the scale of the dragon is so great. In, like, previous shows that we watched, we talked about, like, the fictional camera, like, where it is and the camera work would be. I love following him sliding under the dragon, and you can feel, like, where the dragon would be in space. It's just... you don't get a sequence like this unless the animators are, like, inspired and have a clear vision of what they need to be animating and what they need to show. Like, it doesn't stop. It's like a one-shot, you know? It's phenomenal.
Just following him until...
we parted in anger, hearing about the fear.
Being afraid.
And I loved this sequence because, like, one of my favorite...
She goes from her lips are just, you know, kind of flat to remembering what Eisen said, and then being back in the scene of what she's watching with Stark, and it's turned up a little bit into a slight smile. And
the hair. The hair in this show from every character
hair
is
animation,
amazing.
Hair moving slightly, hair blowing in the wind. It's just such a nice thing.
The shadow's so great with it too. And then this was such an inspired shot. Seeing Frieren, like, looking upon Stark and then getting the entire zoom out of the fight happening and Stark. Yes, it's so fucking cool.
And he, my student, my apprentice,
look at that,
though. A great warrior.
It's such a great sequence because it doesn't end with just like, oh, you're pulling out and you're seeing the initial strike from Stark. It's still choreographed. Like, after he hits that, he's using the momentum of that to like flip
Blast
again
himself
to
up.
to be able to go
Hit
for
the
that final
head.
blow. Oh my god. And oh, it's so interesting when you see like the texture of the dragon here. It looks like you can like there's fur underneath him or something, right?
Oh, it does look like his chin has like hair.
Oh, and this is
Fur.
such a great shot. This is like
Where he's like clinging on right by the eyeball.
it's like yeah, it's like a GoPro stuck on there. It's so cool. You don't see these shots every day. And look at what they're doing with
You
his
know,
hair.
character design, there's something I love. Bandages wrapped around arms.
Oh, for sure.
I love the white. I love that.
But look at the movement of his hair here with gravity. Like it changes every 2 frames, right?
Oh yeah.
And it's just so cool. Usually,
you can feel this movement, like the hair's going this way. Oh, but then
It's
it
a
moves
roller
this way, so we're
coaster.
being sucked back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like a lot of there are some animes that because of the nature of how they design their main character or side characters and their hair, they try to keep their hair looking the same shape regardless of what they're in. But this is just like phenomenal.
There's certain characters that I can think of right now that I'm like, how would you animate their hair? I've never seen Dragon Ball, but I imagine that Goku.
We've been talking Dragon Ball a lot recently.
But Goku has that hair that I feel like fits that idea of like, how would you animate it moving? Would you just keep it the same shape? Like Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah.
You know, would you keep a Yu-Gi-Oh! Hair in that same shape, or would it have movement? I can't even imagine.
What happens here? Does he pull off a scale of the dragon?
Mhm.
Like I was
because he was clinging so hard.
and then you
to
see
it
something red go flying off to the left of him.
Yeah, he's bouldering.
Yeah. But like, look, do you see?
Yeah,
That piece of red here, it's like a scales pull. Oh my god, that's so cool.
There.
And it's like almost what gives him momentum to wind up here. What a great shot! I love that the focus pull of it. The focus goes in the dragon, and then he's all in blur. And then God, it's so cool, dude. He breaks through like one of the wind lines coming up.
And then we go from his eye to the dragon's eye.
Yeah, I wanted to see the actual shot of his eye.
Sometimes it can be hard to pull up
it's
exactly
so
what
cool
you want.
looking. You still get like the motion lines, but it looks more pallety, you know?
Mhm.
Great.
And then the eye goes from slightly blurry to, and then it gets, the pupil gets bigger, as
Yeah.
if it's like a cat.
It's so neat. And then he's like, now fire!
And he like suddenly he's like has a little sweat drop. Like he's like, oh my god, okay, I did it.
Yeah.
Now go.
God,
Like
so
he's like,
good.
okay, that's all I could do. I did it all. Like he almost gets nervous again, like afraid again once it's over.
Yeah.
His body was moving all on its own, and then once he releases, it's like, where's that resolve? You know? He's like, okay, I did what I needed to do. Now
The
go.
30 seconds are
And
up,
he's like
yeah.
so scared. And just the idea that like picking a fight with a strong opponent, like the dragon wasn't going to just go pick a fight with him. And that's why the dragon was cautious upon Stark, you know, entering his domain.
So one of the reasons that I really appreciate that is because within a lot of types of fiction that aren't surface level, it is very well known that dragons are incredibly intelligent. And I feel like today we see a lot of depictions of dumb dragons. Of just, oh, I'm a dragon, I can fly and breathe fire, gotta kill me, dead, whatever. I love the idea that they're portraying dragons in such a way that they could see the inner physical potential behind somebody and know not to like fuck around.
Mhm.
I love that.
I like it that there's a self-preservation. It gives them more of an animalistic quality, rather than being like a mythical beast. It gives them like something that's more realistic to animals.
Yeah.
Which is that they have kind of self-preservation and this idea of like, oh, maybe I shouldn't fucks with that. Like that guy might kill me, and I have a self-preservation element, like fight or flight.
Yeah. One of my favorite bits of the episode, other than the amazing fight, was the idea of the shaved ice spell. That is absolutely phenomenal.
Well, that's something you would love. Out of all these spells that she's accumulated, that's something that you would really like as a person.
That's the one that I'd use the most.
If you were
Definitely.
on a 10-year journey with
Not
someone,
else.
and they were like, dude, look, I got a spell where I can create shaved ice for you, you would have been like, are my best friend ever, and
That's
this
true.
journey is now complete, and I don't need to do anything else with my life. My life has purpose.
There's no other spells that I would use other than that one. Not any of the other ones we've learned. The idea of no spell for syrup is devastating, and I think
Yes.
there has to be one, but we just haven't found
Just
it yet.
haven't found it yet. You said it during watching. For the same scene of Stark defeating the dragon,
Yeah.
you brought up that as the dragon starts disappearing, all of the monsters, as they disappear, it's like this black ash-like, kind of dissolving
Yeah.
that happens. And you brought up how it mimics, in this one shot where you're seeing it, Stark's hair.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was really brilliant, and so I had to bring it up too. I think it's so dynamic that the monster he ends up fighting is the same color palette as his character design.
Yeah.
I think that that's a really fun choice. And
Yeah,
then as
it
it's
is.
disappearing into the black ash, it's this wide shot of him so small and such a grand dragon that he's finding out that he killed.
You even get the whites in its claws to
Yeah.
match his design. It's great.
I really love that. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah. I think that if we could find a spell for syrup and eat that together, it'd be a great callback and story for
I agree.
Stark
To
to tell.
tell Eisen.
The idea that I don't have a lot of time scared the shit out of me at first.
Oh, I know. And then once I realized what he meant by
Yeah.
that, and that it was like Eisen doesn't have a lot of time, I was like, oh my god, okay, this is so sweet. Do you think that having the dragon be the same color palette as Stark is like one of those things of you're kind of defeating something about yourself here?
Without a doubt. Because I think it completely does a callback to what Fern said. Like, all I needed was my resolve, but that was for that first fight, that initial fight. It was like defeating something within himself and
he's
getting over it.
probably been so angry at himself over these 3 years, so disappointed in himself. He's been creating those fissures. He's been still thinking, like, I don't want to let these villagers down, but what if I do?
Yeah.
The amount of fear that's been in him for these 3 years about, like, even maybe fear and disappointment of himself. Like, is he going to let all these people die? Is he going to leave them?
And it's like added importance that he's the one who did it alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
That Frieren didn't help. Or nobody helped. It was just him. I loved it.
My last thing that I'd want to bring up is Eisen and Himmel. And would you prefer a difficult and painful journey compared to the ridiculous and fun journey?
I love it. I love it. I love Himmel as a character, and I love the way that we're getting him. I think it's a really interesting and unique way of conveying him. I have two things.
Even if it's like this weird thing for this viewer where I'm like, kind of like, we're in this weird place of being sad.
Yeah.
Because we're getting to know and have more time with these characters that we know most of them are dead. 2 out of the 3 are dead and one's about to die.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you trying to make me cry in the future?
Yeah.
Like, and I already started tearing up, even just being introduced to these characters.
Well, it makes me wonder, like, we had that 10-year journey timeline for how long the previous one took. But we don't know how that 10 years were split up. Were there 2 years that they needed to wait for like a door to open? Because last time around, they didn't have the privilege of being recognized and known as these capable people.
So they might have had to wait.
Yeah.
They probably did similar situations. Probably not the same one with the gate, but there was probably times where they couldn't get over that adversity or obstacle that was in their way because they didn't have that prestige and recognition.
Yeah. I absolutely adore the dialogue about flying over the walls and there being that barrier. So that flying monsters couldn't come in.
You needed to have, like, that's just another level of making sure everything makes sense and there's no flaws.
It doesn't even need to be acknowledged or brought up in the story because it could be just
I wouldn't have questioned it.
But no, you could have, like, it. I would have questioned it, but it could have been met with an easy answer of there's a barrier there. But what I appreciate is them making the problem and solving it in 10 seconds on screen. It's awesome.
Yeah,
it makes me think the characters and the
time.
world are smart and that they interact with it and have their own ideas that could break the boundaries of the game, right? Like there were a couple moments of video game feeling vibes I got this episode. Like Frieren being like, we'll just keep playing tag against it and, and we'll get it one time. But the idea of like pushing the boundaries and limits, right? When I play a video game, most of the time, when I'm first in it, I'm like trying to go out of bounds. I'm trying to like break that shit. And creating problems to solve adds so much more depth to a product.
You know what also is realistic for video games that was in this episode?
Hmm.
You should probably only take 3 of those things you're looting with you, because if you burden your character
True.
with too much weight,
You'll
you're
be
gonna
encumbered.
slow down. You're gonna be encumbered.
Yep. My last thing is the idea of a fourth member. I have no good guess of if it will happen or not and what it would do to the story. But obviously the 2 members we have other than Frieren at the moment have a direct connection to their mentors and to the previous party that Frieren was in. I don't know. I think how I'd feel if a 4th member was added who did have a connection to Himmel or reminded Frieren of Himmel depends completely up to how they actually would execute it.
Right.
Because I could imagine ways that I wouldn't be happy with, but I could also imagine ways that could be really interesting and dynamic.
Right. Because right now it's like they all represent one of the people that they're all thinking about and looking for signs of one of the people that traveled with Frieren,
Mhm.
you know? And so there isn't really room for someone else unless someone's there for Frieren specifically.
Yeah.
Even. Because she's there for Himmel. So it would have to be someone that was there for her, I guess, for it to make sense to me. But at the moment, just going off the intro too, I don't necessarily think there's like a full-time spot open for another person to be traveling with them.
I remember one thing from the intro of a brown-haired guy with a sword.
Yes, but that one shot that I really think, but that could just be more emotional. The shot of them, kind of the past and the present separating, that could just be more emotional because which characters emotionally really resonate with the past characters who would be looking at their backs and doing the journey for signs of them.
That's why I said it depends on how they do it, right? Because even you bringing up like, oh, what spot would a 4th member fill if Frieren's filling in Himmel's role, like it,
who they're looking at.
That's assuming that there's a pattern, right? And that the pattern's going to continue. But it could be
more just like who they'd be paying attention to from the past.
Well, no, and the idea that there are 3 other people in the party who are doing it, so adding a 4th who would do the same would be adhering to that pattern.
Mm-hmm.
But they could do something in a very different vein of subverting our expectations, of appearing to have a person like Himmel on the surface join and being that role, only to bring out something in Frieren that shows from her perspective this person isn't like Himmel at all. Like, imagine that we
could have someone who totally has literally no reason to want to be here other than maybe they want to be a hero, or maybe they just want to have fun, maybe they just want to go on an adventure.
Whenever we directly reference or remember something about Himmel, we as in Frieren, somebody who actually knew him, it's very unique and very characterized for like for how he's acting. It's not this prestigious like warrior savior god. It's him being like silly, goofy, like enjoying life.
We were talking about the statue, and the lady was like, "Oh, that's a funny story."
Yeah.
You know, when Frieren was telling like a real story about Himmel.
But she has this perspective, the lady in front of the statue, of this like heroic hero. What if we met somebody who that's how they portrayed themselves, and it was more of a negative thing? Like, other people are like, what ended up with Himmel being portrayed as such a hero was his quirkiness, right? That just built up to these actions that were genuinely good. But if somebody comes out of the woodwork who's like, oh, I am good, I am a hero, and they're outwardly saying that, sometimes there's like petty or malicious like motive behind that. And I wonder what Frieren's reaction to that type of character would be, because like imagine it'd be like something akin to disgracing
Himmel. And it's a play on Stark too, because when we first meet him, he's being called a hero, but he doesn't have that attitude of, yeah, I'm gonna be a fake hero because I'm getting something out of it. If anything, he's like, oh my god, these people think I'm a hero, I don't want them to be disappointed in me. And it's much more like genuine that he's faking the hero role, because he doesn't want these people to be scared. He doesn't want to let them down. He's trying to figure out how he can save them. And he's not just like flaunting it for what he's getting out of tricking these villagers.
And Himel, like, I understand that he was very bombastic and flaunted it in his own right, but it came across as like he's leaning into the bit
He's,
since
like,
it's
goofy.
already there,
Yeah.
rather than trying to make that be the case, you know, which I love about him.
There's a playful energy to him.
All right, that's all I have for you.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.